This content is brought to you by Mazunder Academy.
Hi, today we will see what are the different approaches available to us to give input to our program. So, different approaches of giving input. First of all, the input raw data given in the questions. Then, input raw data will be entered at the time of execution, or the input raw data available in an external file, or the input data taken from the dataset available in the R package or library. So here, first of all, in this file, it is asking me to install some packages like modest package and read Excel required but not installed. So we will go for install again. Yes, we'll allow the installation. Now, let us start the first way of giving input, that is input raw data given in the question. For example, I have a question. Ahmed received marks 78, 89, 70, 95, 85 in 5 different courses. Write a R program to find the average of his mark. So these raw data are already supplied in the question. In this case, how can we input our data? So it is just you create a vector with all this data and pass the vector as an argument to the function that will evaluate the average. So first of all, C is the function that will create the vector, and then mean is the function that will find out the average, and average of the marks, that is the vector where you have stored your data, and whatever the mean value that will be stored in a variable, that is average. And finally, we are displaying the average. So cat is a function we already studied earlier. Cat is used for handling multiple string, as well as it can retrieve the data from the variable. So average marks will be a string, it will be displayed in the output, and the value which is stored in average variable, that will be displayed here. So let's run it and see, is it giving me the correct answer. So the average mark is 83.4 and it is correct. Next, second method is input raw data will be entered dynamically at the time of execution. When you will run the program, that time the program will ask you to give the input data. So in that case, your question will be like this: write a R program that will accept marks of 5 different courses and find the average of all the marks. So data not supplied in the question. So in that case, we will use scan function for numeric input. If your data is here, these data are numeric data. So, and of course marks are numbers, so we will use scan function. So first of all, it is a message to us, enter the marks, and then after that scan function will receive those marks that will be entered from the keyboard, and then it will be stored in the marks variable. And then if we want to see the marks, whether really marks are stored or not, so you can use cat marks are the variable marks. So it will display all the marks whatever you entered and stored in marks variable. And finally, we want to find out the average. So cat /n is used for getting output in the next line. So average is, mean is the function which will find out the average of the data which is stored in the marks variable. So I will suggest something here. If you use scan function, which requires some interaction between the system and the user, in that case you write your code in a new file. And to run this, always you click source, not the run. Source means it will run the entire program. So click source, it will ask you enter the marks. So let us enter the marks, say for example 12, 23, 15, 16, 18, 14. These are the marks. And then 2 times enter. Then it will give you that read 6 items. That means you have entered 6 data here. And the marks are, that means the data you have entered for whether it is really stored or not, just to check that it is correct, fine. And the average of all this data is 16.33. Next method of giving input is using the read line function. If your input is a string input, okay, and that is, remember, it is single line string input. So what is the way of code? So read line, it is a function that will take input, and inside read line, this is optional, that prompt equal to enter the name. So whatever you will give, whatever you will write prompt equal to as a string, it will be displayed in the output screen. So we will understand that enter name, that means it is asking that give me the name. So we will type the name from keyboard, and whatever the name we will enter, this read line function will receive that input and it will store in the variable name. Similarly, read line enter age. This prompt, if you don't write, by default it will take. By default it will be taken as prompt. If you do not write also, that's fine. R will understand it by default. So the age value, whatever you will enter, it will store in age variable. And then cat is the function for output. Say for example, a statement I am giving, hi, and then whatever the data, for example, if you give Dilwar, then it will come like, hi Dilwar. Next year you will be, this is a string conversion function, string to integer. Str means string, to I means integer. So it will convert a string to integer. The reason is this plus operation is not possible between the age and this is a numeric value, integer value, and age is by default not integer. Whenever this read line always store the data, whatever you give, whether it is integer value or text value, it will store as a string. And in between a string and a numeric value, you cannot apply the plus function. So we have to typecast this string to an integer. That's why str to I. There is another way also to do the typecast, but this is the easiest way. Str to I age. In that case, the string will be converted to an integer, and then this plus operation is possible, and then 1 will be added, and you will get your output. Let's see how does it work. So I have opened in a new file, and now click source. So it will ask me the name, Dilwar, and age is 47. Hi Dilwar, next year you will be 48. So everything working fine. Next we are going to see read line function. If we have multiple line input, in that case how can we do? So in that case we can use a read line capital L. Read capital LINE, read line function. It will allow us to take multiple lines input string. So this read line is a function from utils package. Sometimes if you see if you get this error like read line function is not available, then you have to install utils package. Otherwise utils package will be by default available. and it won't be an issue. In case if it gives issue, then you have to install it and load it into the library. The code here, cat enter multiple lines of text, and then one message is given, press Ctrl+D to finish. That means when you will finish your all inputs, now you have to exit or you have to stop taking input. In that case, just press Ctrl+D. Then readline is a function that will receive all the inputs that is giving from standard connection, that is our keyboard, and it will store in the variable lines. And then we have printed in different options, like sometime in new lines printing, then tab distance printing, then the input lines are printed separated by a given character. So let us run this first lines of code and then second line of code, and then it will be waiting for the input, because the readline function now it will be ready and it will wait for the input. So say for example my first line is Dilwar Islam, second line is Mazumdar, second line is Mazumdar, third line is University of Technology and Applied Sciences. So suppose I am done, my all the inputs are over, so I will put Ctrl D. So it will store and it will come out. Now it is the time to display. Say for example the first line of output, it's very clear, input lines are just a message. Second line is seeing the lines, second line here, lines, whatever stored in lines variable, it will be displayed separated by a new line. That is important. That means every statement will be displayed in a new line. So let me run this. You can see Dilwar Islam, Mazumdar, then University of Technology and Applied Sciences. Then next, here all the statement will be printed in tab distance in a single line. So you can run and see Dilwar Islam Mazumdar, University of Technology and Applied Sciences. So it is in one line in tab distance all printed. And the last one is separated by 4 blank spaces. You can see here 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 blank spaces, and accordingly it will print. You can see here 4 blank spaces it is used. In between them 4 blank spaces. 4 blank spaces here. So this is the way we can handle multiple line string input. Next, the input data will be available in an external file, which is very important, because most of the time in data science or in real situation your data will be available in an external file and you have to process it. So how can we? For example, the first type of file is text file. How can you read data from a text file? So using readline function, we can read the data from a text file. In that case, you have to first set the working directory, and already I explained, but once again let me show you. Set working directory, then choose directory, and then wherever your file is available. For example, my file is available inside my flash, inside the video content folder. So I will select that and open. Now my working directory is set. That means the directory where the file is available, which will be accessed by this readline function. Then path. How can you get the path? Path is the get w. So getW is the function that will give you the path of the working directory. So you can see if you run this too. So the working directory is G drive, and that is my flash drive, and then video content. Now, if your file is in working directory, then path is not required. Simply you can give the file name and it will read. Now, readline function, inside that, as we have two string, this is one of the string that will take the path, okay, data from the path variable, and another one is this string, or maybe two string or three string. So we have to use paste function. In that case, text3.grades.text. So let me show you what is the structure of the data inside this file. So text3.grades. You see the data are some grades of students, A minus, B plus, C plus, something like this. Okay. So, and separation equal to open. That means just double quotes. It means separated by step distance or space or anything, it's allowed. So print file1. Let us run this. You can see what it did. Each line of the code, each line of the data is stored as a single character here. Second line is stored as another character string, and third line and fourth line. Now another way of using scan function to take numeric input. Suppose your data is a numeric data. For example, let me show you text1.numeric. You can see your data is numeric data, 123, 7.52, then 8, 9.2, 5, 6, 4.6, 0, like that. If your data is a numeric data, then you can use scan function. So scan, then text1.numeric scan function, and inside that the argument is inside double quotes file name dot text txt extension, and then if you print F1, it will read all the data. You can see here, so all the data of the file is read inside that. Now you can work with that F1. If I want to find out average, if I want to find out maximum, minimum, whatever work we want to do, I can do according to the question. So my input already reached to a variable in my working environment. Next, again, scan function can also take care of text file. If you have text data, that also possible to use scan function. So you can see text2.tab. So let me show you the data which is available in text2.tab. So this is some students information: ID, name, age, GPA. Okay, these are the names, GPA, details. So let us see whether scan function can handle this or not. So scan function, then file name .txt, this is the file name with extension, and what equal to open, that means whatever the format, like it is a tab distance or single space or whatever, you just read it. Then F2, it is just print. Okay, so let's do this and see what is happening. So 21 item read, and if I run the print command, then it will read all. But one thing we can observe, in every item it is taken as a string character and with quotes. If you don't want these quotes, then you can remove the quotes by this quote equal to false. Print F2 quote equal to false. If you run this, you can see it will come without quotes. But remember, the type of this F2 is a variable of the type character type. It's a character type variable. Okay? Type of F2 is character. Now sometimes we want our data should be read in the form of a data frame. In that case, there are multiple ways to do that. Read.delim is a function, or read.table is a function. Both will result data frame. Basically, the type of the variable will be a list type, but the class of the variable will be under data frame class. I'll show you. So let us see text2.tab, same data set we are importing using read.delim function, because we want our output should be a data frame. So if you read this, it already run. Then next, if we want to print this, then you can see it is just like a data frame, it is stored. Now, if we want to see the type of this variable f3 which is created, then this type is, it is a list type, but this is under the class. Which class it belongs? It is belonging to the data frame class. That means this f3 is a data frame. So what is the beauty and what is the benefit of data frame? If you want to access any one of the column for any analysis or for any task, immediately you can access. For example, if I want to access the second column, so F3, I will put $, and you can see all the columns of that data frame, ID, name, age, everything will be there. You can choose any one of them, and if you want to print this, if you run this, you will see all the names will come: Ahmed Khan, Bader, Aisha, and Sarah. So this is the very useful techniques. If you import your data as a data frame, then you can process further easily. Similar options available for read.table function. It will also create a data frame of the same type, will be a list type, and the class will be a data frame. You can run and check it. Now, second type external file can be an Excel file. Some of the very common files actually I am just going to cover in this lecture, because all possible files not possible, you will explore it. So Excel file is another important file in which we get our data and which need to be processed. So for example, write a R program to import data from Excel file result. So result is an Excel file where some data is available. I'll show you. And find the maximum of the midterm marks. So first of all, let me see the result data set. You can see the result data set. It is student dummy data for our study purpose, and there are serial number, student ID, student name, specialization, quiz, then midterm, then assignment, class activity, final exam, total, and grade. And there are 40 students data. Okay, so we will work on it now. So first of all, what we have to do? We have to import our data set. So to import data set, there are different ways. Two ways I will explain. You go to File, then Import Dataset, then from Excel. It will ask you, do you want to install this package now? Yes. Now it will give you the browse option. So browse, and where is your data set available? Browse it. My data set result is available here. Open it. Once it is open, it will show you here. If there is any NA value or anything, everything will show you. And do you have any header? Yes, first row as names. Okay. Then name of this, if you want to give in some other name, then you can. By default, it will take the name of the data set as the variable name. If you want to change, you can change it. And if your data set is available from not in the default sheet, default means first sheet, if it is in some other sheet, you will mention it here. Okay, suppose sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, in which sheet your data is available, you select that, your data will be imported from there. For me it is in the first one, so it is in default. Nothing to skip, no NA value. Then this code you will copy this code and then import. So after import, you can see all the data are imported here successfully. There are 40 data. Now go back to your code. The code that you have copied, you will paste here. Why? Because this is the code that will import the dataset. Sometime if you want to automate your program, then in between you should not go and click here and there to import the dataset. Your code will automatically go to that folder and it will read the data and it will load here for further processing. I will show you, for example, this result I have imported just now. I will delete it, and now if I run this code only, the code that I have just now copied, then you can see it will import the dataset here automatically. Okay, so this is about the import, and I told you another way of importing the dataset. You can import dataset from here. You can see here, import dataset from Excel. Okay, directly it will come here. Now import over. To access the data from a column of the data frame, mid is the variable where we are going to store our data, and as per the question we have to retrieve the midterm data. So the whole data set is the result. The result is the data set, and then put dollar. Once you put dollar, all the column names will appear, and you select which one we want. Mid exam, so select mid exam. So all the mid exam data will be stored in mid. If you want to see, then just mid you write and run this too. You see all the mid data are stored in mid. Now we want the maximum. So again, cat function, maximum of midterm marks. This is a string which will be displayed in mid output, and then max function will be used. Max is a standard function which will give the maximum of all the data stored in mid variable. This mid variable where you have stored all the midterm data from the result data set. So now the maximum of this will be displayed. So if you run, you can see the maximum value is 19.5, and this is true. 19.5 is the highest midterm marks in this. So this is how can you handle Excel file. Next, if your data is in CSV file, then how can you handle it? So read.csv is the function that can handle your CSV file. So I have a CSV file that is sales. Okay, sales underscore CSV. So this is a CSV file. I hope you know what is the difference between CSV and Excel. CSV means comma separated value. So it is a sales data of different brand of mobile phone. So this data will import and we will see further. Read.csv sales underscore csv.csv, and after reading this data set, it will be stored in a variable sales, or you can give any other name, and then view sales. If you run it, then you can see it is loaded here, and now you can work. It is just a data frame. So if you want to work same like earlier, suppose if you want to, let me see what is the sale. Suppose Samsung column. Okay, we want to find out the average sale of the Samsung. Then you just find out average means mean. and then sales, then dollar Samsung. And if you run it, you will get the average is 42.45. Okay, till now we have seen how the data is supplied from a CSV file or from an Excel file. Now we are going to see another type of file, that is RDS file. Here RDS stands for R data serialization. So first of all, how can we make an RDS file from any other file format? For example, I have an Excel file or I have a data frame. So from those, how can I make an RDS file? Now, before going to enter into the RDS file creation and other things, I want to tell you what is the advantage of having an RDS file, because RDS file in a single click it will be loaded into the working environment, and there will be no much steps required to access the data of RDS file. I will show you during my demonstration. So syntax here, save RDS is the function, then object is the one which you will use, that it can be a data frame or it can be an Excel file, then file equal to filename.rds. File name is the name of the file that you want. So after running this code, there will be an RDS file with the file name that you have supplied here. And to store that, the first of all you have to set your working directory. So set your working directory, click session, then set working directory, choose directory. So by default, say for example mine it is in my flash. So inside the flash, say video content is my working directory because my all works are here. So right now my working directory is set. Now if I run this code, so save RDS function will create an RDS file corresponding to the data that you have supplied here in the object data frame or whatever. So it will save this RDS file in this working directory inside the video content. Okay, now how to create a data frame as an RDS file? As you know, data.frame is the function which will be used for creating the data frame. Then in this data frame, for the simplicity, I kept only two columns, name and age. So inside the name there are two names, Dilwar and Ahsan, and the age of Dilwar is 47, age of Ahsan is 4. So it will create a data frame and it will store in the variable D1. So if we run it, we can see, so D1 is created here. There are two observations, and if we want to see just D1, if we run, then we can see it will show this data frame here. There are two columns, name and age. Now I want to save this data frame D1 as an RDS file. So how can I do that? Save RDS is the function, then D1 is the object where my data frame is stored, and then file equal to, say for example, d2.rds. So before execution of this piece of code, I want to show you inside my video content there is no D2. We can see here there is no file name with D2. But once I will run that piece of code, one RDS file will be created here and it will appear. So we will run this piece of code, control enter, and we can see here, let us go and check that working directory. we can see here at the end there is a D2 file created here. Okay, and if you see the extension of this, it is RDS file. File format is RDS. So my d2.rds file has been created. Now if we want to create an RDS file from any Excel file, exactly similar, save RDS function, then result is the dataset where there are some dummy result of students which is used for just study purpose. We already used it in earlier videos, and file name equal to, say for example, myresult.rds. and if we want to rename, so if you want me to show this, then I have to import this Excel file, say for example browse, and I have a result. The result is here. Okay, and import. So the result is imported here. Okay, and right now if I run this piece of code, then you can see my result.rds, one new file will be created in my working directory. So after run, control enter, if we go to the working directory, you can see my result, a new file has been created, and which is also an RDS file. Now next point, if we want to rename, suppose you want to work and don't want to disturb your original dataset, you can rename your RDS file with a new name. It will just create a copy of this, but not in the working directory. It will create in the copy in this working environment. So how to do that? Read RDS. Read RDS is the function that will create a copy of this. It will read the data and create a copy with the new name that you will supply. So I have supplied here the name my_result2. So my result.rds will be copied and it will be stored in this my_result2 in this name. So if we run, we can see my result2, this is available here. Earlier it was my result only. So now my result has been changed to my result2. But at the same time, I will show you inside my working directory there is no my result2. We do not find any my result2. My working directory, it is still my result. So your original dataset will be available here. So this is the way we can work with the RDS file. Now let us give an example. Suppose we want to find the highest marks in mid-exam in result dataset. So inside the result dataset, you can see there are different assessments, marks are there. Say mid-exam is one of the assessment, and there are many data. So we want to know what is the highest marks in this mid-exam column. So how can we do that? Max is the function that will give us maximum or highest. Then where is my dataset? my_result2, and then put $. Once you put $, you will get all the options, the column names. So I need midterm. So if you run it, control enter, you will get the highest mark is 19.5. Next, I want to show you, as I mentioned during my discussion, that if you have an RDS file, then it is very easy to work. No need to go for import this, that, and different steps, and this will be very easily, just in a click you can reach, your dataset will be loaded in the environment. So let me do one thing. Let me clean this all, delete all this data from here, and already I have created my RDS file. So this also I will clean. Right now if you see, if I just see, do I have any D2? You can see D2 object not found, okay, because there is nothing in the working environment. So let me clean it. Now I will go to this working directory which I made, and you can see my data set here. So one point I want to mention here, right now you see D2 and my result, they are just appearing as a notepad file, or as per your system it may be in some other format it will appear. So what you will do, you have to make these IDS files. By default it should open in R. So what you will do, right click with any one of the file and then open with RStudio. Directly if you do, then it will just open one file. So choose another app. So here you can see RStudio, select, and always use the open this, click this, okay, and then put OK. In that case it will make all RDS file by default. In a single click it will open with this RStudio. So we can see it is asking me, do you want to rename it, or if you want to keep it with the same name, it is okay. So for me, no problem. You can see D2 is loaded in the working environment. So if we run now D2, we can see the content inside D2. Everything is available. Similarly, if you do the other one also, say my result, if you just double click my result, and you can see it will be loaded. Okay, it will be loaded here, my result. Okay, and you can view the my result, whatever you want to do. If you just want to view my result, okay, my result, and enter, you can see all the data available inside my result. So this is the way we can use the data given in RDS format. Next we will see little quickly the input data taken from the dataset available in R packages or library. So few commands, let me tell you. To see the available datasets inside package datasets, then you just type data function, and if you run, then you can see datasets in package dataset. Dataset is a package. Inside that, these all datasets available: air passenger, VJ sales, BOD, CO2, these all. Then to list all the datasets in all available packages, this is the code. Data, inside that, in the argument you pass, package equal to dot packages, all dot available equal to true. If you run this, you can see all the previous dataset also available, like CO2, BOD, air passenger, these all coming in dataset. Okay, then clue, clue is another package. Inside this, these all datasets available. Then put is a package. Inside that, all these datasets available. Similarly, it's a huge list. You can explore it. After that, for example, there is a dataset math achieve. So if you want to see that, so view math achieve. So you can see view math achieve. Math achieve is a dataset which have schools, minority, sex, SES, math achieve value, then mean of SES. Like this, these are the different data. Now, if you want to see the dataset in the console environment here, then just name the dataset. For example, CO2. CO2 is a dataset I have shown you just now. If you just name CO2 and run, then your dataset will appear in the console environment here. CO2. Okay. Now, to see the details of the dataset in help session means, as I told in the first lecture about this is the help. So in the help, if you want to see about this data set, then you can type here question mark CO2 question mark and then dataset name, and if you run it, it will appear here in the help session. There is another way to see in the help. There is a search column and you can write CO2 here and select, see all the options coming for this, select this and enter. So the details of this CO2, what is this, how many observation, when it is done, all the details will be appearing here with some examples. Now if you want to see in RStudio, already I show you view CO2. Okay, if you do view CO2, then the CO2 dataset will appear here in the RStudio environment. Then another option, this package name and the dataset, both also possible to, sometimes some authors I have seen they use both, that is also okay. If you write the package name, then double colon and then dataset name, and if you run it, you will get the dataset data loaded here. Then see the structure of the data. Suppose you have understood that, okay, we want to work with the air quality dataset, but we don't know what is the structure. Structure means how many rows, columns, this all. Okay, let's, to see the structure of the dataset, you run str then dataset name. So here it will show you the structure. It is a data frame, 153 observations, 6 variables, and all the variables will show you what is the type. Ozone, the first column, it is integer type. Then solar.r, second column, it is also integer. Wind, it is numeric or number. Then integer. Okay. Now if we want to see the names of all the names of the columns, now if we want to see the names of the column of the dataset, then the function is names inside the bracket as an argument dataset name. So it will give you the just names, ozone, all the names of the columns. If we want to see the type of the data or some number of rows, then if we see the first 3 rows of the data set, not necessary 3, you can change it, you can give 4, 5. Default is 6. If you don't mention anything here, then it will be 6. So if you run this head air quality 3, and it will give you the first 3 rows. And if you do not mention, then it will show you first 6 rows. And if you want just 3, then you mention the here. Now if you want to see the first 3 columns, then you can use the slicing, the dataset name, then from which column to which column you want. Suppose I want the first column to third column, first, second and third. So air quality is the dataset 1 colon 3, and if you run it, it will show you all the columns. It will show you all the columns from first to third, first column, second column, third column. Then sometimes we need to know all the details, column name, class, then row name of the dataset. Then attribute is the function. Attribute air quality is the dataset. So if you run it, in that case you can see first names. What are the different names? So names of the column, then which class, this is a data frame class, then is there any row name? So all the data sets we have seen, then there is no name, only 1, 2, 3, 4, these are the identifier of the rows. So if you have any name, then name will appear here. Now this is all details about the inbuilt data sets. Now suppose if you want to work with this inbuilt data set, say for example, I want to find out the mean temperature of this air quality. So simply mean is the function that will find out the mean. Then the data set is air quality. Air quality is the data set, then column, then temperature is the column. If we run, I will get the average of the temperature. So as a summary, if we see the input raw data given in the questions, which can be entered using vector, then input raw data will be entered dynamically at the time of program execution. Then input raw data will be available in an external file. Some of the possible type of files we have studied, like text file, CSV file, Excel file. Then input data taken from a data set available in our package library. This is all about in today's lecture.
Please like, share, and subscribe our YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon to get the latest update.